You dress up as an old granny and...
Well, you've got to have a hobby.
Yeah, exactly right.
Do you know what I mean? You learn how to juggle and all that stuff that's, very cool when you're 15, 16. The girls were throwing themselves at me, as you can imagine.
No doubt. No doubt.
But I'm too earthy and northern, and I just didn't like paying £8 for a pint. You know what I mean? That's the main thing. I'll share this with you because I've never actually shared it on a podcast before, so this is an exclusive.
Let's go. Today's guest is a one-man tornado of comedy, magic and mayhem, Josh Benson. You've seen him as Little Ernie in the BAFTA-winning Eric Ernie, being heroically run over in Casualty, and singing his way through the West End in the Girls musical. But this Christmas, he's back where he truly belongs, on the Darlington Hippodrome stage. Returning for his third season in the spectacular Goldilocks and the Three Bears, running from the 5th to the 31st of December 2025, he's joining the circus as Joey the Clown, alongside Dame Betty Barnum, and an all-star cast in a show packed with stunts, chaos, and circus magic. Roll up, it's Josh.
There you go. Look at that. Did you write that?
Well, of course, I read.
I was baffled how much you know so much about me.
I read every single bit of your own website.
Oh, there you go. Right, okay,
including the bit at the bottom that says about you dress up as an old granny and.
Well, you've got to have a hobby.
Yeah, exactly right.
Do you know what I mean?
So where did we begin?
It was excellent.
You were smirking quite a bit there, and
I was smirking because he said about this, the one-man tornado. To be clear, it doesn't say that on my website. I didn't write that about myself.
Are you sure?
To now.
That's very cool. Yeah, there you go. I'll take that as a pull quote. Morning.
Good morning.
So where do we start?
Well, I was born in 1999. Where do we start? I mean, wherever you want, really.
Okay, so you're a childhood prodigy, is that right? Was that on your website?
No. Try and avoid any quotes on the website that just make me sound unbearable.
So what got you into performing? Because ultimately you do a lot, don't you?
Do a lot, yeah. And I'm dead lucky really to get to call what I do a job, amateur theatre really, which is kind of it's a great way. I mean, let's get straight into inspiring the kids. It's a great way to start anything really. Is getting involved with that stuff. My family's not involved in, a lot of people that do what I do. It kind of comes generationally or whatever, but my family's not really. My dad did some stuff, but after I sort of started, there was a guy that used to work with my dad who did some Amdram. I went to go and see the show. I thought, fancy a bit of that, and did it and played Tiny Tim in A Christmas Carol when I was 9 or something like that, and then got into it through that way really, and sort of found the love for it, and then the sort of moving into the doing it for a living was an open audition that was in the Yorkshire Post for a TV biopic of Morecambe and Wise, which Victoria Wood was sort of had conceived the idea for, and obviously I knew who Victoria Wood was. I was doing. There's something about doing theatre as a kid. You very quickly learn about what's come before. Do you know what I mean? I think if you're not in that world, you sort of if you are. I was gonna say consuming the art, but I just said before that I was trying to avoid phrases that made me sound unbearable. So I won't say that. But if you're consuming it, then generally you consume what's put in front of you. Do you know what I mean? As opposed to the older stuff, which makes sense. But I think if you're in that world, there's a natural curiosity for what's come before, because everything's inspired by something. Nothing's original, and do you know what I mean? And all that sort of thing. So, I knew who Victoria Wood was and seen this open audition to go and do, and I knew who Morecambe Wise were. So that's like sort of 2 generations before the one I was in. And I was 12 and went to this open audition and did a bit of tap dancing. And because I'd learned how to tap dance because I'd done, I played Michael in Billy Elliot, again, all on the amateur dramatic scene in York. Did it, got the job, and then it all kind of went from there, really. And interestingly, I'll try not to start at the end or whatever, but...
Do you just go wherever you want to go?
I did loads of stuff. You'll chop all this up anyway.
It's unedited.
All right, fine. But I did quite a lot of... child prodigy is probably a bit strong, but I just was lucky enough to do a lot of stuff off the back of Eric and Ernie, which is a great... I mean, unbiased opinion, it is a great story about the young life of one of the greatest double acts of all time, apart from you guys, obviously. About Morecambe Wise, and So yeah, I got an agent from that and did an episode of Casualty and some bits and pieces in that, and that was that. But I always looked a lot younger than I was, which certainly in all the entertainment industry really, but specifically acting, TV and theatre as well, but mainly telly because it's so up close and they can see your wrinkles or whatever. So I always looked younger than I was. So I was able to be, when I was sort of 12, 13, 14, I could play 10, 11, 12-year-olds. Yeah. Do you know? Because I had an unbroken voice at 14, legend. Yeah. And then when I was 15, my voice broke, and suddenly there was this sort of misalignment with how I looked and how I sounded, because I sounded like a teenager, but I looked like a kid. Yeah. So everything just stopped when I was about 15. All auditions stopped, or I'd get auditions, but they just not get a look in because there was this misalignment. Either that or I got
puberty.
Either that or I got a lot worse. I don't know. I'm not sure, but let's blame the puberty. Yeah. But just kind of makes sense that I couldn't play the parts that I looked right for anymore. So I sort of focused on my studies at that point because it's kind of GCSE, A-level age, all that sort of thing. There was basically a gap between being sort of 14, 15 and then turning 18, 19, 20, where I could be 18, 19, 20 and play 16-year-olds. Just the same playing down.
Were you still doing sort of amateur stuff to...
No, I didn't actually. It was what I did in that gap was that's when I moved into light entertainment. Yeah. Over the sort of as a kid, I wanted to act. I wanted to be an actor. And then it just wasn't happening. And you think, well, and it was kind of my agent at the time actually that said the more strings you can have to your bow, the more employable you are, which sounds obvious, but it sort of needed saying. So I'd always liked magic and, juggling and all that sort of stuff. So at 15, I became a kids entertainer, which was brilliant because I was a child that was doing other children's birthday parties. Yeah. Couldn't even drive myself to my gigs. My mum had to drive me to my gigs. And in my first few years of doing that, or the first year, I would say, I'd speak to the customers on the phone and then find my website and do everything. And then I would turn up, and at the end of the 2-hour party or whatever, doing the kids' party, the parents or the grown-ups of the kid would always say, well, I'm really surprised how good that was. They said, we turned up, I was so, who's this kid that's, again, I looked so young. Did the magic thing and learned how to juggle and all that stuff that's, very cool when you're 15, 16. The girls were throwing themselves at me, as you can imagine.
No doubt. No doubt.
I found a love for that side. And they're both in the same world, aren't they? The acting and the light entertainment, they're just sort of separate sides of the same industry. And that taught me working under my own name. Not able to not able to work behind a character, being a character, all that sort of thing. So basically learned how to be Josh, but professionally. Do you know what I mean? So did that, and that led up to, are you bored yet? That was when I turned, on my 18th birthday, I got the job in The Girls, which is basically it's the story of the Calendar Girls. Yep. The ladies from the WI that did the nude calendar for charity. Yep. So that was, I was 18, but able to play down to 15, 16. Yep. So like I say, it's the same theory, but just both of those ages have got a broken voice rather. Yep. So that took me down to London. So I didn't go to uni. I finished A-levels and kind of moved straight to London to do that. Did it in I did the Leeds Grand was the first place it was ever, which is amazing theatre, and then the Lowry in Manchester. That was the sort of world premiere of this thing, and it was Tim Firth, who's a brilliant writer, did the script, and Gary Barlow wrote all the music. So that was pretty cool to go and work with those guys and do all that stuff. Oh, I was only a bit of comic relief in the story, but nonetheless involved in a great thing to be involved in. Did that for the best part of 3 years, on and off Leeds, Manchester, and then we did 7 months in the West End. But there was a big gap between Manchester and the West End. There was a big year basically. So we knew we were going to London with the show, but they were waiting for a theatre to become available, as is how it works basically. So but at that point had done this thing for a few months in the world premiere and had a year to fill. So I went back to doing the light entertainment. Yeah. So that was my first experience of going, oh, okay, I can spin both these plates here and work both these, and not have to have a proper job, basically, which is a huge privilege and a luxury, and I'm very lucky. And I know that there's a lot of stuff about you create your own luck and all that sort of stuff. And they say it's the quite deep and philosophical for a Wednesday morning here, but they say, don't they, that luck is the combination of preparation with opportunity.
Yeah, completely.
So it's a little bit like a fire triangle, but with only two sides. If you take away either of those things, you can be as prepared as they come, but if the opportunities don't come, you're not going to get lucky in it. But you could get all the opportunities, but if you've not got the skill set or the preparation to take them, then same problem. Yeah. So I definitely had both of those, but nonetheless, I'm not here saying like, oh, well, it's because I created my own luck. I've got very, very lucky to find what I love doing very young. So it's I'm incredibly privileged with that. But it was my first experience of going, okay, right, the acting thing's sort of gone away again now until this London thing happens. So I went back to doing kids' parties and magic shows and close-up magic at weddings and all that sort of stuff, and loved it just as much. Do you know what I mean? I was able to do both things. So then we went to London with Calder Girls, which was amazing. Did that for 7 months. First time doing a big long contract, which was again massive learning curve to do 8 shows a week for 7 months, and all the rest of it. You breathe. Were you going to ask a question?
Say how many shows a week?
Eight shows a week. Yeah,
that's a proper job.
That's very, not a lot of people would call it a proper job. That's very kind of you. Yeah. So you do like Tuesday through Saturday. So what's that? That's 5.
Yeah.
And then you'll do Tuesday. We do Tuesday matinee, Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday matinee, Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday matinee, Saturday. 8 shows a week. There you go. There's a lot. It was good, but mainly the thing is just keeping it fresh, not going through the motions, which is the real, that's the real side of it. But that interestingly, that skill works for light entertainment as well. Delivery, the same trick or the same joke or whatever, because people can smell it if you're going through the motions. Do you know what I mean? And so that taught me that, really, doing a big long term thing like that. That show closed, and then I stayed living in London for a while. And it was interesting, really, because I was doing a lot of stuff back in York. So I had a customer base there then, doing the magic stuff and all the rest of it. And I also done a lot of work with an attraction in York called York Maze, which is a big part of my career, which I haven't really touched on yet, mainly because it needs its own paragraph. Yeah. Not paragraph, book. Yeah, chapter. Yeah, it's not a paragraph. I've gone on now. Is it time yet? I'll do that as a separate thing. But I planted my seeds in York, basically, and got my fingers in lots of parties. But I was in London. So the show closed, and what I found was I was going back to York because there was stuff that was frankly, it was going to pay me, and I liked doing it. But then my agent would call and say, because I had this sort of big London agent at the time, and my agent would call and say, right, you've got an audition tomorrow morning. And I would go, okay, right, cool. And I'd look at it. I go, mate, I'm in York. And he'd be very angry about that. And he said, why are you in York? And I said, well, because I've got work here that's not working in a pub, because a lot of people in the line of work that I do are encouraged to get get a muggle job, basically, get a job that you can drop, for when Spielberg rings. Yeah. And I get that, and I think that's really a really admirable and thing to do. I just don't think I could do it. Too itchy to do stuff, and importantly, had already planted those seeds, like I say. So it wasn't that I wanted to do stuff. I had these opportunities, talking about the opportunity thing. I had these opportunity because I'd planted those seeds, and so it made sense to go and do it. So there was a kind of a year or so of slightly rocky road with me and the agent that I had at the time, because. And this is not on him at all. It was certainly I was causing the problem, but I wasn't doing it to cause a problem. It just made sense for me. So there was this year where I realised I was going back to York to earn money to pay for a flat that I had in London that I wasn't even staying in because I was in York more. And so I was renting the room out. So when I was in London for auditions, which is the only time I was really there, I was sort of sleeping on the sofa in my own flat. Yeah. Because it got a bit confusing. So this kind of went on through maybe 2017, 2018. I thought, right, this is stupid now. I'd be much better moving back home because I never really wanted to live in London anyway. Again, anybody that's in this line of work would, it's slightly archaic now, but the thing of like, you want to be a star, you move to London. There's the story of Dick Whittington, right, which links us to Panto, which we'll get to. But the streets are paved with gold. But I'm too earthy and northern, and I didn't like paying £8 for a pint. You know what I mean? That's the main thing. And I had this life in York, so I thought it'd be much better to move to live in York, and then if I get an opportunity in London, I can go down and stay with a pal in the same way that I was staying with my mum and dad in York. So that's what I did. So I moved back to York in 2019, which was perfect timing. It's almost as if I knew. I didn't. Conspiracy. Because of course it meant I got locked down through COVID, but I was at home. Yeah. But I got my own place, but I wasn't in London, which I would have, in a flat in London, which would have been horrendous. You know, I was in a place that was familiar and all the rest of it. So yeah, that was that, and so I moved back to York, and when amongst all this did I leave my agent? I can't remember, but it was basically a conversation with my agent where I said, look, I think I'm gonna do this. I think I'm gonna move back to York because I'm struggling with this idea of sitting and waiting for the phone to ring. Which again would be terrible advice for any young performers or not you, whatever, any performers listening to go, yeah, here's what you should do. You're living in London off the back of a West End contract. Here's what I did. Leave your agent and move back to the town where you were born. Yeah. Terrible advice.
And then get locked down.
And then get locked down, yeah, of course. It was to be terrible advice, but you gotta do what feels right for you based on the evidence. That was the thing. I didn't just do it on a whim. It was this year of toing and froing going, well, hang on, no, I'd be better going back, really. Yeah.
But was the agent encouraging you to stay in London? And sit on your hands and wait?
Basically, because of course...
I suppose they'd have like a stable of talent, if you like, and hope that
100%.
1 out of 10,
and I
1 out of 20.
Get that 100%, and a lot of performers are happy to, and or have to, really. You know, again, it's not that I'm sitting on some high horse going, oh, I'm better than that. It's not at all. It's just that I couldn't do it because there's a lot of like, again, social media is a bit of an echo chamber, isn't it? But and your algorithm shows you the stuff. So you guys see property all the time and all that sort of stuff, and I'll see showbiz stuff. But the thing that sort of says, I can't. This might be a misquote, but the thing that sort of says, just remember. Ian McKellen didn't get his big break till he was 56, and this person didn't make it till they were this, and that's supposed to be inspiring. Yeah. Going like, just never give up. And I thought, yeah, but what if I wait to 56 and the phone doesn't ring? Yeah. What a waste of life. He's a little bit strong. He's a little bit strong, but that was my philosophy. Yeah. When I knew that I could, the light entertainment side of things didn't have a casting bracket, or I don't have to look a certain way, or I don't have to be, you know what I mean? Excuse me. So that sort of ended. That life kind of ended, as it were. I sort of went, right, I'm going to leave my agent, which does mean that I probably won't get sort of legit acting work. Do you know what I mean? I was happy to go. This is on paper a poor decision to leave that life behind. But you have to make decisions based on how you feel, right? Yeah. Rather than what other people are telling you should do or what on paper works, And I spent a long time thinking about what was right and wrong, and then you realise, of course, that there's no right or wrong decisions. There's just decisions, and then you find out later whether they're right and wrong, or you make the best of it, or whatever. And everything's only for now, isn't it? So you can always go back, and I sort of knew if I left the agent, I wouldn't be able to go, oh, I could have come back. So I said that when I left. I said, look, I may get 5 years down the line and realise this is the worst decision I've ever made, but I need to discover that for myself than having this sort of nerve every time the phone rang and it was him. I'd feel anxious because I think, I've done something wrong, or you know what I mean. So yeah, moved back to York, got locked down, did loads of kids parties and magic shows on Zoom through the pandemic.
I was going to ask, how on earth?
That was great.
That?
Really? Yeah, I mean, stupidly lucky. I'd sort of, it was established enough in my sort of big fish in a little pond way. Yeah. So I offered, doing magic shows on Zoom, which was great. I mean, that was you must have this where the pandemic seems such a long time ago, and you think, oh God, what an awful time, and it's a horrendous thing for so many reasons. There's bits of it that you go, that was quite nice, though, wasn't it? It was quite nice to sort of, roll my big magic flight cases out from under the stairs, set them up in the front room, quick, have all the kids do the thing, and then finish the party and go, close. Because when the party normally, if I do a kid's party normally, you finish the party and then some kid go, oh, my balloon's popped, can I have another one? Yeah. So you do an extra 10 minutes and then you're doing small talk while packing away, which I don't mind. I'm happy to have a chat and all the rest of it, evidently. But yeah, there was the nice side of it. Because the other thing I did there was I think I limited them to like only 12 screens at a time, just so that I could see everyone. So I would view it in gallery mode, so I could see everyone. And I got quite good at on Zoom, you sort of spotlight your own screen, so that my screen would be the biggest on all of their screens, and then you could bring somebody else's screen on. So basically, I got good at sort of almost like I was working in the control room of a TV show, sort of live cutting between cameras and doing whatever, while also doing the show myself. And so if I was watching I would be watching the gallery mode. So if I caught a kid, with finger up nose, I'd cut to them and say, "I can see you," whatever. It's like,
brilliant.
And did that. And the other thing I did was had all of them on mute. But I'd done
another benefit.
But I'd already done 5 or 6 years of my magic show, my act for kids at this point. So I knew. So I told them at the start. I said, I'm gonna put you all on mute so that there's no sound interrupting each other. But rest assured, I can still hear you. So if you've got something to tell me, tell me. But I've just done my show for such a long time that I knew what they'd be. So there's a certain routine with a certain prop or whatever, and you just find, the same thing gets said. It's the same as if you do a panto and you say, what should we do with the baddie? And there'll always be a kid that says, kill him. Yeah. And of course the gag there is you say, welcome to Darlington, or whatever, or you say your parents must be so proud. There's those things. And it looks off the cuff. And that goes back to what I was saying about making stuff look off the cuff, even when it kind of is a muscle memory of a thing, but you mustn't let it be that, and I've instantly ruined it by telling you. But you know what I mean? So I knew what they'd be saying, so it was great. It really, really worked, was this. And so I did sort of, a year of online Zoom entertainment, really, which was cool and interesting. And
from a performer's point of view, part of the buzz must be getting like live feedback. So
it is, that's true. That's true.
Great to mute them.
Yes,
but
no.
There's like
Getting back to it was, there's nothing like it, is there? There's nothing quite like it. But when did I need to get onto panto, because I don't want to link to the panto. I'm trying to work out when this was. So it was actually before the point was I was living back in York and I'd left the agent. So there's some Zoom chat. But when I left London, and Calendar Girls closed. So I've gone back a little bit here. But when Calendar Girls closed and I was going to move back to York, I knew then, I thought, right, I should do a panto. Because I've always liked panto and I've liked it. And I thought I should do a panto because that is a perfect combination of these two worlds, these two plates that I've been spinning. Yeah. It's light entertainment and acting. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. You've got it's an exact combination of those two worlds. Excuse me. And so before I left London, I said to my agent at the time, "Do you think it'd be good for me to do a panto?" And he said, "Oh yeah, maybe. Okay, fair enough. I'll see what's out there and all the rest of it." And there was only one casting came through, which was to play Dick and Dick Whittington, but it wasn't one of the ones where the lead sort of principal boy is also the comic, if that makes sense. So I don't know how well you know panto, but you have your sort of staple characters. So you got your dame, principal girl, principal boy, comic, villain, fairy or mythical being. You got those sort of staple characters basically, and sometimes people combine. So if it's Jack and the Beanstalk, sometimes Jack will also be the one that comes on and says, "Hiya, gang," or whatever, basically to save money and have fewer people in the show. Or it sometimes can work really well for that person to be one person anyway. I've done it and it works well. But this one wasn't that. It was just to be the principal boy. So the audition that came through from my agent at the time was, "Oh yeah, can you prepare a love ballad?" And it's to be, and I was kind of like,
more of a serious,
to do this serious. And I was kind of like, and I tried to resist the phrase, "Oh, you want me to audition for, do I look like a dick?" But that was the phrase to avoid, but it didn't make sense that I was being put up for that and not the silly daft idiot that I'd spent a load of time working on, like I said, being Josh professionally basically. So I turned that down, and that was when I left and moved back to York, and this is before all the Zoom stuff that I just banged on about. I just did a massive blanket email to all the panto producers in the UK and said, hello, you won't know who I am. My name's Josh. I've done this show in London. I've done bits of TV, and I'm also a kid's magician, and which felt like all the boxes to tick to do comedy. That was so. The end of the story is I left London and left that life behind on the Tuesday, having been sort of told, like, you know, no, you should do that, you should do this, and this. And by the Thursday, I'd got myself onto my first ever panto, which was to be Buttons in Cinderella over in Chesterfield, which it was only a small scale sort of panto, but a reputable company to be working for. And that was it really. And then from that, invited lots of other people to come and see that show, because that's the best audition you could ever do. Is getting somebody to watch you do what you do. And then I've worked in various places, and then it was a very long way of getting to where we are now, which is as the comic in the Darlington Hippodrome, which I've done. I'm just about to do my third year, which is great. I mean, it's amazing. If you came, you both
last year came.
No, wife and kids went last year.
Oh yeah,
but I
very good.
didn't, I'm afraid.
Oh, it's amazing. I mean, it's like nothing else. I mean, and there's quite a lot. This gets said quite a lot certainly in marketing for pantomime, but it is just the truth. Is that it's one of the only times where the whole family can come out to the theatre together and experience a show and laugh at the same things. Yeah. But for different reasons.
There's two parallel performances
100%.
going on.
Yeah.
There's one for the kids, there's one for the adults, and absolutely, that's the magic of it.
100%, and that is joyous to be part of that. The guys, so the production company that put this on is called Crossroads Pantomimes, which produced the London Palladium and some huge, you know, and they do loads all over the UK, and the production value of the show is second to none. The set, the costumes, the props, just that alone, you know, that kind of, it's an old showbiz phrase, but, you know, worth the ticket price alone. But it is, I mean, it's exceptional just to watch, you know, as a spectacle. But then you get the added layer of, you know, hopefully genuinely funny scripts and routines and people and characters, and we've got a great bunch of people there. So there's I'm the comic, and then there's Jamie Jones is the Dame, and he's done the Dame there for 3 years. The two of us, we've got a great thing going. We've got a bit of a shorthand now, so we sort of know, you know, because we don't rehearse for very long, so we sort of know what needs to be done and what needs to be. Well, we'll amend that joke, and even when we open, we'll go, okay, that doesn't work, we'll swap that out for this. And you get that sort of when you work with the same people. There's always a top turn, so a celebrity basically. But what's great about this panto is it never feels like a shoehorned celebrity to sell tickets. Do you know what I mean? It's not. It's someone who is a master of their craft in whatever capacity. So we've got Brendan Cole this year of Strictly fame. Oh yeah, there you go. There he is, creeping behind me. So he's got some great dance moments in the show, which is just great to watch someone again who's just a master of their craft in whatever capacity. And then full supporting cast and ensemble. So we got the Three Bears, which is Jess, Christina, and Johnny, and then Tife, that's what we call it, Tife, Taziva, who's Goldilocks, who's amazing. What feels great is to be a cog in a brilliant machine. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? You could go and do a panto where anything could go and do a panto where and go, a bit of a sense of, you were brilliant, you were brilliant, but to be part of something which the whole thing is just, everyone knows what they're doing and hitting their marks and doing their thing, and that feels really exciting.
Tell us a bit about the facility in Darlington. You've obviously toured the country. You've seen many a stage. Yeah. Tell us about, obviously you're here for the third time for a reason, right? Yeah,
100%. The Hippodrome
and pretend that one of the big honchos is not in the room listening.
All right, fine. It is incredible because 2016 renovated, so the whole the theatre underwent a massive renovation in 2016 because it was Civic. Was it the Hippodrome before that? Was it the Hippodrome then the Civic then the Hippodrome began? Yeah. So it became the Julian, who's in the room telling me all this. He's got his own episode of this podcast, by the way. You should listen to it. He'll do much more detailed.
I thought I recognised him.
Yeah. He's just been sat there ever since for part 2. So it underwent this massive renovation, which there's kind of 2 types of. There's many more, but if we break it down into the 2 types of theatre, you've got your sort of traditional, theatres, and then you've got your sort of modern theatres, and the modern theatres, a lot of them are amazing, but because they've modernised it, it's a little bit soulless. So a little bit like performing in a cinema. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sort of carpeted walls, and the problem with that as well is that it absorbs sound. So the acoustics in a modern theatre, the laughs, and this is genuine thing, the laughs don't bounce around the room.
Right.
An audience mentality, if you don't hear other people laughing, you're more inclined to go, as opposed to actually, it's very, I mean, I could talk about that on another episode, but the audience mentality, I know we've got time, but it's fascinating, really. Yeah. So in the traditional theatres, it's the sort of ornate boxes and walls and, wooden seating. Yes, it's got the padding, but it's got the wood, the wooden seating and all that sort of stuff. And of course, in there, the laughs bounce around, and it also feels warm. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? It's the red velvet, it's the gold leaf, all that sort of stuff, which just, it's a bit snobby, but it is nice. And it's really, feels really magical. That's what feels magical about a trip to the theatre. It feels special and almost a bit like stepping back in time. And also the side of it, that kind of what I talked about way back at the start of this, if anybody's still listening, it is what's come before. Yeah. So in those old Victorian or Edwardian auditoriums, you can sense the names that have played that stage. Yeah. In a modern theatre, you don't get that sense. Do you know what I mean? Other than Jimmy Carr's been on it, or the big names at the time, which is great, and that's not to be undervalued. Yeah. But it feels special when it's Cannonball or whatever. Yeah. What the Hippodrome has nailed is that they've. I need to do another little bit of context before I put the button on the conversation. But with the traditional theatres, because they've held on to the sort of the traditional thing, not always held on to it because of that, just because they haven't got enough money to renovate or whatever it is. Yeah. The backstage is often falling apart. Yeah. Cold showers. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Doors that don't really work, all that sort of stuff, which again has its charm. Yeah. It has its charm. But when you're working there for a full season, it can be, doing 12 shows a week or whatever, it can be nice to have a hot shower, or whatever it is. What's great about the Darlington Hippodrome is that they've ticked both boxes. So their renovation, you've got all modcoms, backstage, LED lighting, the hot showers. It's amazing. It's a really, really lovely place to spend a season. It's comfortable. You can settle in. But and I don't want to say they haven't touched the auditorium because I'm sure it got renovated, but it looks, it's Edwardian. Is it Edwardian? That's right. It's got its Edwardian roots. Also, within the front of house, if people haven't been to the theatre, there is they've poured a lot into sort of enrichment and education of the history of the building and the people and all that sort of stuff as well. So you've got a really nice modern sort of bar area, lounge area, cafe, this really great cafe, and all that sort of stuff. But you can step through and still see what it would have been like, and which is great for kids as well to learn that stuff and all that kind of thing. And right at the top, they've got a sort of history of the pantomime there, which has been a real staple of. Pantomime's a staple of most theatres, again, because it's got that universal outreach. A lot of kids' first trip to the theatre, again, it's that combination of storytelling and that world with light entertainment, so it's perfect for that. It's got a big history of the thing, and then you step into the auditorium and you're in an Edwardian space, which is wicked, and it's great being on stage to look out. It's also a great house for comedy, like I say, because one, the acoustics, laughs bounce around, which feels good, and two, the dress circle and the upper circle, so the two sort of top, the mantelpieces as they are really heavily raked. So I'm doing this because I'm on camera, but for the listener, really on such a slope, which means when you stand on stage, you get the sense that you can look everybody in the eye.
Yeah.
Whereas other venues, sometimes the dress circle is so far away that you're just sort of shouting into the abyss. You know what I mean? So it's really, really great design and great. It's a fabulous.
Tell us how that feels, standing on stage looking out to a packed show.
I mean, there's not,
for the first time.
It's really hard to describe it, other than to say, and I guess it's slightly cringe, but it feels, when you get the right space. So I've been in Darlington for 3 years now. This is very cringe, but it is true. It feels like home. Do you know what I mean by that? And I'm lucky enough to get to do what I do and be who I am. And I don't mean that in that sort of like, oh, I'm Josh Benson. I just mean that my job is a big part of who I am and what I do. So sort of nothing feels more normal or right, which I think for a lot of people would go, oh, that's mental. Do you know what I mean? Because a lot of people, public speaking or being on stage or anything like that is a huge fear. But when you get the right place and the familiar, and certainly with panto, you get a lot of returning audience members, so you sort of get to know people, not personally, but in that sense of, you know what I mean, knowing. And I said this a lot again in the build up to this run. I've said this a few times, but again, it's true. When I first came in 2023, you knew, so you sort of establishing yourself. Returning for a second year, which was last year, is great because you've got that sense of familiarity. You've got that sort of underlying familiarity with you're not new for the first time, but it is still, when you do a second year, it is still the first. There is still try and explain this. There is still a first with that, because it's the first time you're returning, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yep.
So there's as much as it's nice, there is still a first. Doing a third year, I've now got what feels like a sort of it's slightly indescribable underlying sense of calm, because there's nothing new. The show, there's plenty of new stuff in the show, but I've done returning now. I returned last year, so so now you go, right, let's hit the ground running.
Might as well sell you a house.
You did, yeah. But you know what I mean? It's that feels really nice. And I'm a comic, so getting a laugh, is what feels normal. Which is one has to be difficult. One has to be careful with that mentality as well, because classic sort of. I won't go too deep with this, but classic sort of brain of a clown. People expect you to be funny all the time. So you just got to have, have your wits about you with that stuff, But I'm really lucky with my life, and I'll just touch on this before we wrap up, because it wouldn't be right to not, because it's a big part of what I do. So I'm really lucky, because I'm not just a jobbing comic all year round that just goes from venue to venue and show to show and gig to gig, and I've done that a bit. But I mentioned York Maze, which is a huge part of what I do. So if people don't know, it's an attraction in York. Started off 20 years ago as a maze, so a field of corn cut into a pattern. I worked there doing bits and pieces, hosting the tractor ride and doing little bits and pieces. When I'd moved back to York and that part of the story, so it's all coming in now. All the cogs are mashing up now. And then in the pandemic, so they'd always had shows, and I'd done bits and pieces, but I always got on really well with Farmer Tom, who runs York Maze. And I sort of said to him over a beer, I said, look, I think this place has got big potential here to be a sort of, knock off Yorkshire Disneyland, basically. If we really, if you'll take a punt on me, I can bring you some really sort of impressive, quite bespoke shows and stuff. And bless him, even as a farmer, he was probably one of the only business owners to actually put money into something through COVID, as opposed to going, oh, let's hold back. So in 2020, I took over as entertainments manager for York Maze. Obviously, I'm on corn mission, to plug it. I'm not, but I couldn't be more passionate about the production value and the stuff. And people don't really know what we've got there. And I think the mentality kind of still is. 25 quid a ticket to walk around a field? I don't think so. It is like a little festival. It's like a little sort of kids and family festival. It's incredible. So I'd really recommend that people come and see what we do there in the summer. We do a Halloween season as well, which is where I do the chainsaw wielding grandma, which you touched on. So the reason I'm saying all this stuff is because when I talk about the brain of a clown and being a jobbing comic and have people expecting you to be funny all the time, which can really grind away at you, on a serious note, can have a real impact, and does on a lot of people in my line of work. I consider myself, there's loads of them. Do you know what I mean? You see what I'm doing? It's just, it just presents itself.
So cool.
Very good. But yes, I do the jokes and the corn jokes and I write the show, but I'm the entertainment manager. So I make the rotas and I build the set and I design stuff, and I'm dealing with difficult conversations between departments and solving problems, which means that for 6 months of the year, which is like the build up to summer into Halloween, I've got, I suppose, what would be more considered a proper job. Yeah. I'm still singing for my supper to a certain extent. I still perform all the shows there, but I'm problem solving and I'm doing stuff. There is problem solving and stuff in the line of work of being a comic, but the stuff, it tends to be more departmental in sort of legit show business. So working at the Hip, there's an amazing crew, which I should shout out, in the theatre, and the production team, make the costumes and do the set. And I work for a farmer in York, so if I want amazing costumes and great set, I've got to sort that myself and build that myself and write that myself and create that, which I love. And my dad's a handyman, so I've learned how to sort of build. I'm genuinely registered with HMRC as Josh of all trades, master of none. That's just true. It was also the title of a one-man show that I did for a while. But I've always been passionate about being able to do a little of a lot rather than a lot, or being good at, or trying to be good at, a little of a lot, as opposed to being good at a lot of. Do you know what I mean by that? And so that's given me personally I don't know. It just means that when I get to come away and do panto, to link it back to why people should come and see the show, it's sort of me being the most free that I ever am, because they can come to the maze and see me do the shows there and all the rest of it, and I love all that stuff. But the reality is, I'll be doing the show and doing all the rest of it and throwing everything I've got into it. But in the back of my mind, I might be thinking, there's a smoke machine that's just got broke. I've just had a message before I've gone on stage, broken smoke machine down on the tractor ride. I've got to run down and solve that. Which again, I love doing all that stuff. But when you come away, my job is to turn up and be funny. Great. Do you know what I mean? It's just I've sort of managed to. I don't know, I talked a lot earlier about spinning both plates between the acting and the thing, and now it feels like I've got the thing between the performing and the creative and the management, and just making sure that, hopefully, touch wood, I don't end up in that spiral that a lot of comics and comedians can, and it's difficult because, of course, people expect you to be funny all the time when that's what they see, especially working under your own name, and so it's the whole thing is a balance. Do you know what I mean? This sort of finding that sort of happy medium between the two things. And I said at the very start of this, I was going to try and avoid any sort of cringy phrase or anything like that. But I'll share this with you because I've never actually shared it on a podcast before. So this is an exclusive. But I talk a lot about, or I'm very passionate about, this idea of a happy medium, between spinning both plates and doing both things. And there's a little poem that I wrote a while ago that I'll share with you if you don't mind.
I'd love you to.
So it's happy medium. There's a phrase, interpretable in so many ways. There's obvious ones of one is such as starving yourself or eating too much. And what is the reason that we care so much about makeup, clothes, shoes and hair? Does any of it matter? Well, the objective answer is no. But then everything's pointless, really. And so it's a balancing act between work and play, between letting things go or having it all your way. It's purely subjective individual consideration between sex, drink and drugs, but in what moderation? Because you see, for some people, adventure matters, quad biking holidays and tea with Mad Hatters. But for others, it's just slippers and a homemade stew. But I think the happiest people have a mix of these two, because if you keep going and going, you'll be a burnt out mess, all because you just had to say yes. But if you keep saying, no, I'll just stop at home, well, then you become swallowed and engulfed by your own comfort zone. Now, some of my happiest times, I've had very little money, but obviously cash doesn't make me sad, so this one's kind of funny. While everything else is best in moderation, with your bank balance and your happiness, there is no correlation, because we all like stuff. Of course we do. Shiny cars and hotels and official brand shoes. But the thing that gets forgotten when it comes to champagne is both Moët and Sainsbury's get pissed out the same. Now, that having been said, if you want Hugo Boss, it doesn't make you bad and you're not at a loss. But the point of this poem is to point out the middle ground between having pride in your work or being pompous and proud. Now, if we bring the matter a little closer to home, even to the point of assessing my shows, do people like the magic and the juggling and the corny jokes that are daft? All these long, quite deep poems that cause you to ask, is there ever a situation, in anyone's case, where somewhere between the extremes is not the best place? As I leave, have a think, rack your brain, go for it, and you'll find that the middle is the best place to sit. But most importantly of all, it's a hard balance to find because we're obsessed with extremes, us folk, humankind. So you have to find what's too much and too little and then find a happy medium in between them.
Very good.
Should we end there? There you go.
That was brilliant.
Sorry, it felt like all the stuff I've been saying had linked towards finding that balance. I think that's what life's about.
Is that the first time you've performed that?
Never done it on a podcast before.
Amazing.
There you go.
Very much.
Thank you very
You
much.
don't own it. What did I sign?
So back to the pantomime.
Back to
when's very quickly. That was when's your opening show?
5th of December.
Yep.
And we run right through till New Year's Eve.
Brilliant. And tickets still available?
Tickets still available.
Yeah.
Tickets still available.
And how do people get tickets?
You can go to the box office, or you can call the box office if you want to interact with a person, or you can go on the website if you're of the modern age and don't want to speak to anyone. All the usual ways: Darlington Hippodrome.co.uk. Just type in Darlington Hippodrome, it'll be fine. AI will probably do it for you now. Yeah, all the usual channels, and but yeah, they do. You know, as we move towards Christmas, because it's that time of year, they do start to sell out and sell really well. So yeah, get booked up quickly. And I promise that nothing as deep as Happy Medium is in the show. It is just me doing fart jokes and juggling. So there you go.
Brilliant. Thank you so much.
Not at all. Thank you for having me. Thank you. I've not drawn a breath. Sorry.
Enjoy your rehearsal.
Thank you. Cheers.
Thank you.